Joining me now is Diana Furchtgott-Roth, George Washington University adjunct professor and former chief economist at the Labor Department. Great to see you again. Thank you for being here. Diana, first, it's an obvious question. How can you have a blowout jobs number in a contraction, in a contracting economy, or at least one that did for the first half of the year?
Well, first of all, this is the first month of the second half of the year. We do not know if Q3 is going to be a contraction. Point number two, we are still in a situation where employers need workers. There are almost 11 million unfilled job openings, and even though we've regained the jobs before the pandemic, we have not regained the labor force participation rate. We're down 3 million workers. So that means that employers are looking for workers. They don't want to lay off the ones they have. Employers find workers very valuable to them right now. Yeah. Plus, people still have savings. They want to go out and spend. Spending went up 1%. The big hit to GDP in Q2 was gross domestic investment, which was down 13.5%.
Right. Of course, credit is way up. I mean, a lot of Americans are using their credit cards. The inflation is really dipping into their savings and robbing them of their savings. That's the horrible thing about inflation. You hope that the dollar you earn today is going to be worth the same tomorrow or next month or next year, and it just is not.
That's true, but there's a lot of pandemic travel and spending that people are doing right now that they couldn't do last time. There are so many people going on trips. There are so many people having weddings. So that spending is keeping up. That's another reason that there's this big demand for workers.
Yes.
What we don't have is investment. That's why we don't need this Manchin-Schumer tax bill that would tax corporate income.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second, but you mentioned before that we don't know, we're now in the second half of the year, we don't know whether we're still in a contraction, but we had in today's numbers an upward revision of the numbers from May and June. That was in a month of, or in 2 months of contraction. So it again just boggles the mind. Is that simply because we have never been in an era where we're coming out of turning off the economy, turning off the entire world economy, and it's creating all these anomalies?
We've had major supply chain problems. The entire global economy is hurting. We are, in fact, doing better than most. But the 0.9 of a percentage point reduction in GDP for Q2 was the advanced flash estimate. This is going to be revised. It's possible it's going to be revised up, and we will see less of a contraction in Q2. Plus, the numbers we got today are going to be revised. It's the first estimate. It's going to be revised 2 more times. So we might get an upward revision in Q2 GDP.
Now, we also have different numbers with payroll jobs numbers and household job numbers. The household number was up much less, 179,000. And in the previous month, it was down 315,000, even though the payroll numbers were up. How do you account for that anomaly, those differences between household and payroll numbers?
Well, generally, when the numbers diverge, they come together at some point, but they are 2 very different surveys. One's a household survey. It's people who are called on the phone. Fewer people are contacted than in the much larger payroll survey where they contact employers. The payroll survey is more precise, it's larger, it is updated, it's benchmarked to totals. The household survey could have errors that are never corrected. The household survey also includes self-employed and includes people who work in agriculture. Now so they're very, very different surveys.
We did have those 2 down quarters. Doesn't absolutely necessarily mean we're in a recession, but it has in the past, and it's not a good sign. Stagflation is a horrible combination. In what way, we're going to have one of your colleagues who signed, one of your 230 colleagues who signed that letter against the Inflation Reduction Act, but in what way is it actually going to dampen growth in the United States if we go through with this bill?
Well, it's basically hitting at corporate investment. We want our companies, our manufacturing companies, to buy plant, to buy equipment. That way they can expand. It hits these manufacturing companies and companies that invest in plant and equipment because they don't get the write-offs for them that they used to. That's why it's extremely important. Given that we saw that in the second quarter, gross domestic investment went down by 13.5%, we definitely do not want this bill. Plus, some of the good parts of our economy, the growth in the economy is because of the Trump tax cuts that took place in 2017. President Biden wanted to repeal those, but we are still gaining from those in today's economy.
You know, we heard from Elon Musk, his own prediction about the recession. He said, I would guess it's a mild recession for, I don't know, 18 months or something like that. Does that sound about right to you?
I think no one knows how long it's going to last, and it's also affected by geopolitical developments. Say, for example, that Russia and Ukraine came to some agreement tomorrow. Growth would really pick up. Say that China invaded Taiwan, growth would dramatically go down. So it's very dependent on global elements. So I don't think Elon Musk really knows. I don't think we know.
Diana Furchtgott-Roth, great to see you again. Thank you for coming in.
Great to be with you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.